So welcome back everybody, my name's Andrew and you're watching the Kelley's Country Life. And if this is your first time visiting the channel, hey, thank you for stopping by. If you enjoy projects like we're gonna build today, developing a homestead, building your own home, all the stuff that we constantly do on this channel, we'd appreciate it if you give the video a thumbs up and subscribe because we post weekly videos and it really does help the channel out. So in today's video, we are about to attempt to build ourselves an armadillo trap. So a quick little story on why on earth I'm doing this because some people may not understand, and then we'll get straight into building this thing. So we have 50 acres here in North Florida that we're developing into a homestead. We plan on having animals and all kinds of other stuff going on here, and we're bringing y'all along for the journey. And I'm gonna throw some footage up right here. Recently I was doing some mowing in a pasture that we spent a bunch of time developing and planting in grass seed that we're eventually gonna put cows out there, and my wife wants a horse to ride. She had him when she was a kid, wants him again. So if you take a quick look at that aerial shot, this is a small fraction of that field. All those holes that you're looking at right there are armadillo holes. I have lost count how many is out in that pasture alone. So I want you to imagine something with me. Cows out there stumbling around, my wife running on a horse, and any of those large animals stepping into those holes with their legs. It's disaster. You're probably putting the animal down. My wife could get really hurt, and we just don't want that. We are under severe attack with armadillos. We really are. So I'm seeing them weekly. They get up underneath our barns. I've had them dig underneath the foundation of my building out here. Our last home that we moved from, believe it or not, I caught one in the act underneath our house because we had a crawl space foundation, ripping every bit of insulation off of all of the AC ductwork. You're talking a huge expense right there. I had no idea why on earth it was doing it. I would have never believed it until I took a vent off the house and seen it actually doing it. Now we live out here in nature, we want to live with animals, but if they're going to be destructive or cause problems like this, hey, we need to take care of the problem. It's just the way life works. So we're going to build some traps today. I've seen a few YouTubers and people online using these. Now I haven't really seen anybody build. I also stumbled across some plans from Louisiana State University. I'll include down in the description. I'm really not going to follow them. They're hard to understand, but I've got a general idea in mind how I want to build this trap just based off of ones that I've seen. And by the way, if you build something like this and you handle animals, use care. You always hear about them carrying leprosy and other stuff. They're one of the few animals on earth that do. I don't know if it's transmissible or not, but anytime you handle a wild animal, you really need to use some precaution. Also keep in mind, if you're going to trap armadillos, maybe you're going to transport them, carry them somewhere else. I don't know how you're going to take care of the situation. You need to read your state rules and regulations because of a lot of places will not allow you to transport a live trapped animal. So that's for you to figure out there. Let's get to building. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out all these pieces. I'm figuring this out in my head, to be perfectly honest with you. And whenever we get this thing built and actually working how I want it to, well then we'll go over some rough dimensions and maybe you'll get an idea how to build one watching me stumble through this one, so to speak. So I always love sharing tips and tricks on the channel. Maybe you've seen this, maybe you haven't. But as you can see, I've got a piece of wood that is bowed in, and I have no way to get a hold of this piece of wood to pull it back out flush here because I'm about to shoot a screw in from the top. So if you will put a screw into the side of your piece of wood, unless it's something delicate where you can't do this. So take a hammer, put it down on that head of the screw. Now I can take that hammer and pull out, get that piece of wood nice and flush. Shoot my screw right down in and you're good to go. Yes, there's a little hole there, but that does not matter for what we're building today. Okay, so we can talk dimensions real quick. This top piece I cut at 13.5 inches. And the reason I went 13.5 inches is because I want a 12 by 12 opening. Well, this top and bottom piece, as you can see, it overlaps these two 3/4 inch pieces. Add those together, you've got 1.5 inches. Or if you take 1.5 inches away from 13.5 inches, you got a 12-inch opening here. I cut my two side pieces 12 inches since they're inside of this piece. So I just rambled on to say all that together gives me a true 12 by 12 opening. I just kind of picked that out of thin air. That is plenty of a good size for any size armadillo to walk in. Now we're about to have to put some lips in here because we are about to cut the top open and make a trap door that can be up on some string or cable, whatever you want to do here, that can drop down and lock. But you can't have the door loose in here. It's got to be in between two strips and I'm on the inside. So if the armadillo runs this way, it can't knock the door out. And obviously we don't want the door to be able to be pulled in so the animal can escape as well. And we're going to do trap doors on both ends. That's what makes this design so unique and good for armadillos, because they can enter from two directions and the trap door is solid. They're not going to beat this all up again like those cheap wire cages. right, so we have this contraption all set up and ready to go. And thus far, it is working very, very well. So as you can see, here are my trap doors down here. Gravity drops them, real heavy 3/4 inch plywood. So they fall nice and loose. As you can see, I left a big gap and a lot of play here so they wouldn't chatter on the way down. I want those to drop very quickly. The few designs I've seen online, like from LSU and other people I've seen use, they all went out and bought pulleys and everything else, which seemed like such a waste of money. I just bought me a cheap package of these screw-in eyelets here. You can get those from any hardware store and save some money and not have to go around trying to find pulleys. Plus, I was always worried about the little rope jumping off the pulley. This is such a simple system. Got another little eyelet in here, one here, and over here as well going down to this. So essentially, when you pull on this one rope, both sides come up and down at the same time. Now let me show you the trigger. So all I did was took a piece of, I think this is 1/2 inch PVC conduit. You could just use regular PVC. Drilled a hole right through it and popped a roofing nail through that I cut back after I played with how I want to do the trigger. I did another one of these eyelets right here and had to play with that a little too. Screwed it in and actually bent it this direction. So when you stick this piece of pipe right down in the middle, I'll hook this right through and hook my rope right on there. So eventually, so what's happening is the little bit of pressure from the rope and the doors is holding this right here, just ready to want to slip out. It's a hair trigger, and this pipe's sticking down in the middle. So anytime an armadillo comes in from any direction and bumps this, well, because this eyelet's slightly bent that way, this slips right out of the rope. So check this out. Let's see if I can do this without blocking the camera. I think I'm gonna have to block the camera. Just barely, and I mean barely, barely hook the rope onto the end of that nail. So you can see I just tied an overhand knot and left a little loop out on the end. The nail is barely on it and it's trying to slide out that direction. So this pipe's in there just kind of doing its own thing. So if an armadillo comes in from either direction and bumps that pipe around, keep in mind they're kind of big critters and they're clumsy. All it's got to do is barely trigger that, and it works from just about any direction. These slam down nice and quick before the armadillo can figure out what's going on, and they're trapped. All right, so I've been told if you can't get good scent, no doubt I can ride around, I probably still will, and find a freshly dug hole. I just had a bunch of them up at my shop and I covered them all up. I should have waited. But I've been told that you can actually funnel armadillos into a trap. They're pretty much blind and they wander around the night bumping into things, and you can funnel them straight into the trap. That's a very common technique. And once you get them in your trap is scented. Now here's the key. Depending on how, if you're gonna go transport them, carry them off somewhere again, you need to check your regulations on that. Do not kill them in the trap. From what I'm being told, if you kill one in the trap, that ruins it. But if you actually leave a live one in there, let it scent the trap up, you can go reset it and you're golden. That is the best scent that you could potentially have in them. Apparently they're very curious about other armadillos and will wander right in on their own because they have a very good nose. So here's my thinking. I mean, the entire, it looks like hogs have went through here. The ground is so dug up. I've got some 2x4s back there because I kind of figured I may already have to do this. We're gonna funnel them to this. So, I've owned the property long enough. I see them come down the hill all the time, hoping to catch them coming this direction, not necessarily that direction, which I can go back and get some more timbers. Otherwise, I can try to neck them down at a spot up here. This is why I eventually want to have more than one trap. But we're testing all this to see if it'll actually work. So if I set this trap up like this, wedge these boards in here where they cannot knock them over. Now, if they come fumbling through this area, well, they're going to bump their nose against the board and just fall right into this box right here. And if I can go get some scented dirt, that should make them go on in. So now you can see what I've done. I've essentially taken a very large area and forced them to kind of come this way. So one other thing I thought would be pretty awesome to do here, let's set up a camera, put it on video on where it can record, and see, this may be difficult, let's see if we can actually catch one going in there and setting the trap off. That'd be kind of cool. So I have just went down and checked on the trap this morning. The doors are down. I have no idea if we have anything in it or not. Fingers crossed this worked, and it's taken quite a while to get to this point. Let's see what we got going on in here, and then I'll explain why the trap is where it is and why things look like they do. And we have an armadillo, and he's sleeping. But he is up now. He obviously knows something's going on. He can hear me. I just cannot get my camera in there. All right, so you may notice that the trap now is in a completely different spot than when I've started. This has actually been about 2 weeks for me to get my first armadillo in this trap. 2 weeks. So I've had some close calls. I had it originally set up in the area. Well, nothing happened. So I moved it to another very popular walking area, and I had one come up one night. The first night I set it up there and actually knocked some of the boards over and walk right around it. I haven't even checked that camera yet. We probably have footage from that. So I've had some really, really close calls. Now here's the thing. There was this canoe right here, and I drove by one day and I seen a freshly dug den, a hole that goes way down in the ground right there. So all this wood that's piled up at the other end, I piled it up over and created a cavity to where the armadillo could come out of its den. Actually, I did this 3 days ago, and today's the first day I've actually caught an armadillo. I don't know if it was going back in this direction or if it just slept for 3 days in its hole, but eventually I funneled it into here. Now the thing of it is, I could have done that with any trap, an old wire trap, you name it, since I technically boarded up and forced it into my trap. But there's two things here. One, this style trap allows an opening from either end. I have no idea if it coming this way or the other way. You can't do that with a wire trap. And now that I have a live armadillo in here, looks like it's been sleeping a while, rummaging around, it has scented my trap. So I'm hoping now, after I set this trap, since we have the scent in there and I've read all over the internet, scented traps, an awesome trap. I'm hoping we're gonna catch more. Actually, this morning, there was a gigantic armadillo going right across the yard. I couldn't get to him in time before he escaped in the woods. We've actually gotten probably 15 to 20 armadillos by other means here over the last several weeks to 2 months. There's just armadillos everywhere digging our place up. So I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna run back to the house, get my little borescope. We'll look down in here. I'll show you the armadillo, because obviously once I open the door, where I'm gonna haul this joker, he is going to take off like crazy, and I'm not gonna get really any good footage with that. All right, so I've got my Wi-Fi borescope hooked up here, and we are about to look down in there and see if we can see this guy. Well, there he is right there. All right, so yet another use for this borescope. I love this thing. All right, so I guess to wrap this up, we're gonna look through that game camera that I have set up out here. I don't know if we got any good footage or not, but thank y'all so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this. And if this winds up being successful, there'll be a part 2 coming where I'm gonna build several more of these and try to put a dent in this population that we have. There is fresh digging in holes all behind you. I am just so overrun with armadillos, it's absolutely insane. So thank y'all so much for watching. Here comes that footage if we have it. We'll catch you on the next video.